The Mede dynasty began after the demise of the Septim dynasty, when warlord Titus Mede liberated the empire, capturing the imperial city with a force of only 1,000 men. The Mede dynasty was ruled by a handful of emperors over a few centuries, but not much is known of them. During the events of Skyrim, the Mede dynasty is still in control, having been led by Titus Mede II, but much has changed. The empire was reduced to a shadow of its former glorious self, having conceded its land and some of its rules to the Dominion, and the empire became reduced to the regions of Cyrodiil, High Rock, and Skyrim, with Skyrim becoming the centre of a civil war. If we follow the path of the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim, Titus Mede II could become a target of one of the assassination contracts. But unlike many of the Dark Brotherhood contracts, the motive and the true requester of this contract is not revealed, and Titus himself acts quite strange, realising that the last Dragonborn has been sent to end his life. So who initiated this contract, craving the death of the leader of the Imperials? Let's explore these sinister possibilities together. Now, concluding the means for this murder is perhaps the easiest, as there's much knowledge available to us, because we ourselves were instructed to kill Titus Mede. So let's firstly go through the events of this Dark Brotherhood quest, which we can then use as a lens for our deeper hypothesis. The last Dragonborn is first introduced to Titus Mede II through the Dark Brotherhood quest, Whispers in the Dark, where the Night Mother conveys that Amaund Motierre has a series of assassinations which ultimately lead to the killing of the Imperial Emperor. Amaund's bodyguard, Rexus, then gives the Dragonborn 2 items to pass on to their Dark Brotherhood superiors. A sealed letter, which contains a detailed plan of the actions that the Dark Brotherhood will need to do in order to lure and kill the Emperor, and a jeweled amulet, which is a very valuable treasure that Amaund says can be used for all expenses. This was given as a down payment, a sign of good faith, with more money being given upon the completion of the contract. Following the plan of the sealed letter, the first assassination is of Vittoria Vici, an imperial noble that is marrying Asgeir Snowshot. Asgeir's family is of Stormcloak origin, and they are none too happy that their son is getting married to an imperial.
They say this marriage is the first step towards peace. Who in Shore's name wants peace?
Not only is Vittoria an Imperial, she is also the cousin of the Emperor. As such, the assassination of Vittoria at her wedding in solitude would be deemed as a political death, with everyone assuming that it is related to the ongoing war.
It has everything to do with politics. Asgeir, my son, you have so much to learn.
Whereas in reality, it's actually intended to force the Emperor to visit Skyrim in order to deal with the aftermath. To further cover up the murder of Vittoria, the son of Panitas Oculatus' commanding officer, Gaius Maro, is assassinated next, with a letter being planted on his body incriminating him with the plot to kill the Emperor. This letter details Gaius Maro writing a letter to Vunwulf, presumably Asgeir's father, stating that Titus Mede II will die by Stormcloak hands. As this is the son of Commander Maro, the leader of the Emperor's security detail, the Dark Brotherhood believe that this will fracture the Emperor's protection. But this is not the end of this precise plan. The Dragonborn murders the Emperor's personal chef, the Gourmet, and when the Emperor arrives in Skyrim, the new assassin-posed chef serves the Emperor a meal of the deadly variety. But this is not actually the Emperor that was poisoned, but indeed a decoy. This was a trap placed by the Imperials, which certainly seems to make sense seeing as the Dark Brotherhood pretty much telegraphed their plans through the letter that was planted. Commander Maro himself states that a member of the Dark Brotherhood came up with the plan.
We worked out a deal, you see, an exchange. I get you, and the Dark Brotherhood gets to continue its existence.
Upon returning to the Dark Brotherhood sanctuary, the Dragonborn finds it being burnt down to the ground, with Astrid, in her dying stages, admitting that she was the Dark Brotherhood's betrayer, hoping that by sacrificing the Dragonborn, the Dark Brotherhood would be left alone. This was not the case, and the Dark Brotherhood was crippled, with most of their members perishing in the flames. After gathering what is left of the Dark Brotherhood, the Night Mother asserts that the contract to kill the Emperor is yet to be completed. So then upon revisiting Amaund, he stresses that he has nothing to do with the betrayal.
It was Morrow!
Motierre then reveals that the real Titus Mede II has arrived in Skyrim, in the ship of the Catana, anchored at the Solitude Harbour. He reveals his extensive knowledge by also disclosing the location of Commander Morrow. After the Dragonborn makes their way to the Catana, they have a little too easy task of making their way to the Emperor, who strangely seems to have already accepted his fate.
Yes, I must die, and you must deliver the blow. It is simply the way it is. But I wonder, would you suffer an old man a few more words before the deed is done? Once you've been rewarded for my assassination, I want you to kill the very person who ordered it. Would you do me this kindness?
Why would the Imperial Emperor just accept his death, and not fight for his life? Perhaps he knows more about this assassination than us. But who would have wanted this? While there are many candidates, the most obvious person who wanted the Emperor dead was in fact Amaund Motierre. Having been the individual who was contacting the Night Mother and the last Dragonborn, Amaund Motierre could be simply the man behind the scheme, wanting Titus Mede II to perish. But how would he have the power to do this? Well, the Motierre family is known throughout the Elder Scrolls to be a rich and powerful Breton family, with Francois Motierre appearing in Oblivion and Mirabelle and Lycienne Motierre appearing in the Elder Scrolls Online. So the family has been around with its fortune for centuries. They also were constantly affiliated with the Dark Brotherhood, with Mirabelle being an assassin of the Dark Brotherhood, and Francois hiring the Dark Brotherhood to fake his own death. So the Motierres seem to have recurring themes throughout the Elder Scroll games. Of course, this can be seen through Amaund disposing some of his many riches before the assassination of the Emperor, a jewelled amulet, and he stresses that there'll be much more wealth after the assassination is complete, with 20,000 gold being left for the Dragonborn. But there's more to this amulet than meets the eye. When it's taken to Thieves Guild member Delvin Mallory for appraisal, he shares the importance of this piece.
This is an amulet of the Emperor's Elder Council, specially crafted for each member, worth a small fortune. Ain't something you give up lightly.
So we can safely say that there's some sort of connection between Amaund Motierre and the Elder Council. It would make sense that the Elder Council would have been involved with the forced removal of Titus Mede II. At the time, Titus was often regarded as a weak emperor, having been blamed for the decline of the Empire due to the less than favourable peace terms he made with the Thalmor. With many unhappy with how the Empire was being led, perhaps a member of the Elder Council took matters into their own hands and ended the Emperor's reign. Amaund Motierre could have been that member of the Elder Council, single-handedly enacting his scheme to end the reign of Titus. But this doesn't seem that likely. A lot of planning has seemed to have gone ahead for one individual, and when the contract is being discussed, Amaund is incredibly confident, such as when he discovers that Titus is dead.
My friend, you may not realize it, but you have served the Empire, indeed all of Tamriel, in ways you cannot possibly imagine.
Even when discussing his plan to assassinate the Emperor,
I am sorry, but that's all I'm at liberty to say.
Amaund seems to allude that he has some strong and powerful support behind his contract, and may not even be in charge of the actions taking place, but is just another cog in the system. Even if we ignore the words he speaks, it's more than likely that Amaund is still not working alone. The Elder Council amulet is made custom for each member of the Elder Council, and when presented to the right people in Tamriel, it can be powerfully used to unlock many secrets. Perhaps Amaund, being a lone renegade, managed to steal the amulet from a member of the Elder Council for his own use. But if that was the case, we would presume that the Elder Council member would alert that the artifact had been stolen, and the use of this traceable amulet would then be limited by authorities, so this doesn't seem that likely to be the case. But this also triggers another question. Because this amulet is so unique, wouldn't the handing over of this amulet to the Dark Brotherhood easily connect the Elder Council member to the assassination of the Emperor? It seems like it would. perchance there are greater risks or rewards at play, and the sacrifice of a single Elder Council member is just part of the greater good. Amaund does seem to convey this, and himself or another council member could have just been a powerful force in Tamriel, so much so that the authorities or other higher placed officials in the Empire would turn a blind eye to the treacherous amulet evidence. So we know that Amaund had the opportunity and resources to assassinate the Emperor, but why would he himself want to do this? Potentially, Amaund wants more control over the Imperial Emperor, maybe being able to do so more freely with a different Emperor at the helm, or even himself. If the last Dragonborn questions Amaund as to why they want them to kill the Emperor of Tamriel, he replies,
In the year 3E41, Emperor Pelagius Septim was murdered in the Temple of the One in the Imperial City, cut down by a Dark Brotherhood assassin. His killing ushered in, shall we say, a necessary change in Imperial policy. There are those now who wish for a similar change.
So for at least political reasons, Pelagius Septim's life and death could be paralleled with Titus Mede II. The brief history of the Empire states how Pelagius' reign only lasted 3 years, having been assassinated while praying at the Temple of the One. Pelagius had no living children, so the crown imperial was passed to his first cousin, Empress Catana. Now Titus Mede himself does not have much evidence as to his family, and no children seemingly exist, though we can't rule it out. And there are faint murmurs that a descendant of Titus could have wanted him assassinated, wanting to obtain the throne sooner. But what fascinates me more is the fact that Pelagius Septim's cousin took the throne, as there were no children. If Titus had no children, you could presume that, like Pelagius, the cousin of Titus would take rulership. But who do we kill in the lead up to the death of the Emperor? Vittoria Vici, the cousin of the Emperor. Could her assassination not just have been to lure the Emperor to Skyrim, but also to eliminate potential heirs, foreshadowed by Amaund himself? It seems likely that the people want the bloodline of Titus Mede II to leave the Imperial throne. If the Dragonborn joins the Imperial Legion after the Emperor has been assassinated, the oath upon joining changes from
Upon my honor, I do swear undying loyalty to the Emperor, Titus Mede II.
to
Upon my honor, I do swear undying loyalty to the Emperor.
This purposeful change in dialogue means that there's definitely an Emperor succeeding Titus Mede, but it does remain clouded as to who it is, be it a descendant or another individual elected by the Council. So could the Elder Council be the powerful force behind Amaund? It's definitely a possibility, as it's happened before. An era before the events of Skyrim, Empress Morihatha was assassinated, and it was believed that Elder Council member Thoricles Romus was responsible. He was tried and executed under Morihatha's successor, Pelagius IV. So if the Elder Council amulet pointed to a member that was indeed involved in the assassination of the Emperor, this execution would seemingly happen, as with the amulet now being on the black market, rumours of how the amulet came to be would definitely surface. But perhaps the new Emperor or a newly empowered Elder Council don't care about avenging the murder of their previous Emperor, potentially also being behind the assassination plan. Some suggest that the Elder Council would not be the instigator behind the Emperor's assassination, as if they wanted a new Emperor, they could simply vote a new Emperor in. But the reigning Emperor does retain the power of veto, as has been exploited in the past by Uriel Septim VI. But Titus's defeatist attitude would suggest that he would not veto the Elder Council, as he would just be delaying the inevitable. So perhaps the Elder Council were not actually behind the assassination, so could there be another greater force empowering Amaund? Some suggest that the Thalmor are indeed this force. The Thalmor were the opposers to the Imperials in the Great War. Their empire was rapidly expanding, and at the start of the Great War, they demanded that the Empire outlaw the worship of Talos, disband their intelligence system, and cede parts of Hammerfell to the Dominion. Titus rejected this ultimatum, and a devastating war lasted for 5 years, until the White Gold Concordat was signed, officially ending the war, and pretty much agreeing to the same conditions that were proposed before the war began. But unlike when these conditions were first offered, the Imperials were now at a state where they would offer much more for peace and an end to the war. But by signing this treaty, the Empire was perceived as weak and was destabilised, plunging Skyrim into a civil war with the Stormcloaks. And in Thalmor dossier Esbern, they claim that the Great War was the first war against the Empire, seemingly laying the foundations for yet another clash of blood. But if they were to have assassinated the leader, I feel that this would all but strengthen the Empire's efforts against the Thalmor. If it was disclosed that the Thalmor were behind the assassination of the Emperor, wouldn't the Imperials be inspired to take up arms, catalysing the next Great War, and driving back the Thalmor? That being said, it is being set up that the Stormcloaks, the individuals involved in the Imperial Civil War, were behind Titus Mede's assassination, so this could further fracture the Imperial Empire, giving Thalmor a stronger foothold in the fight. But perhaps the assassination was set up by someone who wanted the war to reignite, with a rejuvenated Imperial Empire charged by their Emperor's death. One of the most popular theories about whom was behind Titus Mede's assassination was the curious idea that the Emperor ordered his own assassination. The whole assassination of Titus Mede seems heavily orchestrated, and perhaps at times even too convenient. With another great war seemingly on the horizon, it seems that Titus would not be an emperor that many would be inspired to fight for, and Titus seemed to understand this ultimately fatal situation. Despite his body double being murdered in solitude by the Dragonborn, the Emperor still travels to Solitude, not putting up a fight against the Dark Brotherhood assassin, stating that there is no stopping the Dark Brotherhood. After the Dark Brotherhood kills the Emperor, we would be safe to assume that many, like the Penitens Oculatus, would be craving justice, sought to kill those responsible for ending the life of their Emperor. But no one ever comes to chase the Dragonborn, and even if you are observed killing the Emperor, there's only a bounty of 40 gold placed on you. Why would this be the case? Is it because this was all the Emperor's doing? Could the person financing Motierre to kill the Emperor be in fact the Emperor himself? Scotston originally proposed this theory, and he suggests that Titus Mede, growing old, realised that he wouldn't be able to lead the Empire through the next war, and to restore trust in the Empire for the next Emperor, he sought to die of a martyr, perceived to be slain for his beliefs in the Empire. Rather than being shunned by advocating the throne, Titus would become a legend, with his perceived mediocrity being outshone by his sacrifice. So he disclosed a plan to his most trusted advisors, one who could silence the murmurs of conspiracies about the true reason for his impending death. The Dark Brotherhood's malice is then tested against a fake Emperor, to see if they would have the stealth to kill the Emperor with little to no trace. Upon the Brotherhood's success, he immediately travels to Solitude, staying in his ship, awaiting his own execution. But the Emperor isn't the only piece of interest that is harboured by the Catariah. If we examine the Emperor's room, we can find a copy of the Brothers of Darkness, a book about the Dark Brotherhood. At face value, this book raises some questions. Why would the Emperor be familiarising themselves with the Dark Brotherhood? Could it be to plot an assassination of himself? Also in the Emperor's room is a kiss, sweet mother, which includes a Black Sacrament tutorial, the ritual to request a murder contract. In order to perform a Black Sacrament, the invoker must create a victim assembled from actual body parts, such as bones and flesh, and then surround it with candles. Then, this body must be stabbed with a dagger, rubbed in petals of a nightshade plant. In the Emperor's cabin, we can find skulls, bones, but no nightshade. It seems that the Emperor was not only familiarising himself with the assassin sent to kill him, but perhaps was planning to contract a murder himself. Just before the Emperor is killed, he has one strange request.
I want you to kill the very person who ordered it. Would you do me this kindness?
Now this could be viewed as Titus tying up loose ends left behind after his own assassination, leaving no one to know the truth. But it seems like the Emperor was planning to murder someone before his own death, so perhaps he already knew of his pursuers, and hoped to end their life first, knowing their power and hunger to fatally remove him from the throne.
And once more I prove Commander Morrow the fool. I told him, you can't stop the Dark Brotherhood. Never could.
Titus Mede does flatter the Dark Brotherhood, yet they are definitely not the force they once were, losing confidence with the Night Mother, and nearly perishing under Commander Morrow himself, being full of traitors. So could Titus have actually been disguising the true intent behind his words? If we are to believe that Titus himself ordered his own assassination, he could be alluding to how he has made the Dark Brotherhood unstoppable. because he made the contract impossible to fail. But while I feel that this theory does have the right motive, to spurn the Empire into successful action in time for the next Great War, along with the opportunity and access to perform the assassination, I don't really think all the pieces fit nicely together. If Titus was setting himself up for martyrdom, the true reason for his assassination would have been kept as secret as possible, and to increase secrecy would be to reduce the footprints left to perform the assassination. But many more individuals other than Titus were caught in the crossfire, often with many left, like Commander Maro, who would be intent on revenge and discovering the truth. And this would make covering up the real reason for his death much harder. When Titus is praising the Dark Brotherhood, he could indeed be alluding to another more powerful entity, with an unstoppable desire to end his life. And no matter where he went, he would meet his end. Another curious individual we can find on the Catana is a sailor, who is seen guiltily next to another dead sailor, and not far from a dead Imperial agent. Found on his person is an iron dagger. So could this sailor be yet another assassin? Sent along to finish the job in case the unstoppable Dark Brotherhood fails? I think this force, powering Motierre and playing murder chess with Titus, could yet still be examined. We mentioned earlier that the amulet that Motierre gave the Dark Brotherhood was a dangerous piece of evidence to put on the black market, and maybe he did so because the powers that be would make sure it would never be traced back to him. But what if Amaund was not actually confident in giving away his possessions, but he had no choice but to expose himself in the plot of the assassination, and he was just trying to preserve his own life? Throughout the quest line of assassinating the Emperor, Amaund becomes increasingly nervous and dishevelled, perhaps concerned that his own plan could be failing due to the traps laid by Commander Maro, or the stress of killing his own friend. But maybe Amaund is becoming more and more concerned for his own life, and not just because he thought Titus would tie up some loose ends. Initially, when the contract is first accepted, we meet Amaund at Lanayru, but upon killing the fake Emperor, Amaund relocates to the Bannered Mare, looking quite different. In fact, these Amaunds have different noses, and lips. So these characters are starting to be suspiciously different. We could explain these changes in multiple ways. This could simply just be a development error. The Amaund has two different NPCs for different areas, with one being marked as important, while the other can be killed off. It would be easy for the developers, who wanted Amaund to appear more stressed, accidentally change some features, which would be impossible to do so just from stress. A more lore-friendly explanation could be that Amaund paid a visit to the special wood elf called Galithal. Galithal is known as the face sculpture, and can change an individual's appearance. She stated that she has worked with people from the Empire before.
I count the nobility of both the Empire and the Dominion among my clients.
So Amaund could have gone to the face sculpture to change his face and hide away from later pursuers. But if he is trying to hide himself, he has definitely not done a good job. What if this Amaund is actually an entirely different person, cleverly disguised to appear as the real Amaund? Maybe Amaund hid himself away, assuming that Titus would want revenge or tie up loose ends, and like Titus, had a double descend and take the fall for himself. Or just maybe, the people behind Amaund actually killed him off, punishing him for his earlier failure, and upon realising that the last Dragonborn was in fact still alive, posed a double to continue one of their many plans to dispose of Titus. Perhaps by Amaund giving the Elder Council amulet to the Dragonborn, it already condemned him to death, supplying an explanation as to why his amulet would end up in the hands of a collector somewhere in Tamriel. Amaund is constantly accompanied by his bodyguard Rexus, both at the Bannered Mare and the Vale, and his bond with Rexus supposedly goes deep.
He has been with the Motierre family since I was a child. I trust the man with my life.
Rexus seems to be the most loyal of bodyguards.
I have vowed to serve Amaund Motierre until my dying breath. Best remember that.
But what happens if we follow through with the late Emperor's request and kill Amaund? Rexus just stands oblivious in the adjoining room, allowing this to happen. That's not like a bodyguard and a close friend, and this should only make us the more suspicious. The Imperials often have names that are styled from the Latin names of ancient Rome. An example of this is General Tullius, whose name is common in Rome, such as Roman scholar Marcus Tullius Cicero. Rexus is an Imperial bodyguard, so he could also have some Latin roots. In Latin, Rex means king, or ruler, and for masculine words that express the object of an action, Latin often suffix us to their words. So could Rexus perhaps be the next ruler of the Imperial Empire? With Titus and his relatives all eliminated, he is free to consume the throne, having puppeteered the assassinations through the desperate actor Amaund, while being disguised as a dismissive bodyguard. But while Rex does mean king, the title Rex was at times despised by the Romans. Rome was founded by the controversial and even mythical King Romulus, who had stories spun about him including the murder of his own twin brother, and kings were ruling Rome until 509 BC, when the Roman Republic, a new form of government, kicked out the king and assumed power. All the emperors who came to power after 31 BC assumed the title of Augustus to avoid the glum connotations that Rex had left in its wake, with the next Rex finally appearing in 476 AD, being the German Rex Ottosser, ending the Roman Empire. So could the name Rexus be also foreshadowing the state of the Imperial Empire, following its inspired Roman counterpart and changing dramatically upon the appointment of a Rex? I think that while there are some connections, they are quite loose, and there are not enough connections here to prove this. Perhaps the next Elder Scrolls game would solidify this. The Elder Scrolls games are strongly tied together, with previous games always hinting at what the next game could entail, and it seems most definite that this infamous assassination will have more of its story revealed in Elder Scrolls 6. Elder Scrolls 6 is still in development, with only glimpses rumoured and leaked as of now. But could anything in these leaks help us find the true conspirer of this assassination? At the start of 2021, Elder Scrolls released a cryptic tweet about the future of their games, with candles being strategically placed on a map and the caption, "Transcribe the past and map the future." Many individuals link this to Elder Scrolls 6 being located in Hammerfell, with the bottom left candle lighting up the word Hammerfell around an incomplete part of the map, with Hammerfell still needing to be mapped in the future. So if Hammerfell was indeed the centre of Elder Scrolls 6, could they somehow be intertwined into the assassination of the Emperor? Indeed, when Titus signed the White Gold Concordat, they were due to cede a large part of South Hammerfell to the Thalmor, but Hammerfell were unwilling to accept these terms and continued fighting the Thalmor, with Titus officially releasing Hammerfell from its status as an imperial province. Many of the Red Guards saw this release as an abandonment by the Empire, and the imperial resentment grew throughout Hammerfell. This could definitely have boiled to an extent that they thirsted for the assassination of the Emperor. Spiritual Driver 4845 believes the Elder Scrolls tweets and the Emperor's assassination could definitely be linked, comparing the location of the Catana ship to one of the candles on the cryptic map, and even comparing the map itself to the map in the Emperor's room in the Catana. When the Dragonborn impersonates the Gourmet in order to kill the later realised body double of the Emperor, the Dragonborn is given a Jarin root, used to poison the Emperor's food and leads to nearly instantaneous death. The book Proven Moon Sugar Fertilisation Techniques in Elder Scrolls Online states that Jarin root is very difficult to obtain, only being found on the island of Strossenkai. Now Strossenkai is located in the province of Hammerfell, so could Hammerfell have provided the poison to try and kill the Emperor? It would definitely be possible, and I do like the connection to Elder Scrolls 6 that this will create. Hopefully, the true forces behind the Emperor's assassination will be revealed in the coming Elder Scrolls games, but we can do our best to solve the mystery with the information provided to us. We've learnt that the assassination of Titus Mede II had extensive planning, with powerful persuasion over many individuals throughout Tamriel, and they had extensive resources, so it seems less likely that individuals such as Amaund or Rexus would be working solely on their own. Due to the tension of another great war, it seems like many provinces have motive to assassinate the leader of the Imperials, but with the blame being placed on the Stormcloaks, it doesn't seem like they would be the guilty party either. The murder of the cousin, Vittoria Vici, strengthens the parallels that Amaund drew with the Emperor, Pelagius, which suggests that Titus perhaps no longer had any heirs to his throne. The death of Vittoria wouldn't make too much sense if Titus wanted to assassinate himself. Previously, Titus had cancelled a trip to Skyrim due to assassination attempts, and it seems that he has returned to Skyrim to put an end to his assassinations. But like we've previously said, he could have reduced the casualties and not killed as many individuals that he would have cared about. Worth 1 actually makes an interesting point with Titus' cancelled trips, and why he so calmly accepts his deaths at the hand of the Dark Brotherhood. Similar to Uriel Septim at the beginning of Oblivion, Titus Mede could have received prophecy that his death was imminent from the moment he saw the protagonist. A prophecy that Titus Mede would be murdered by the Dark Brotherhood. Originally scared, he could have cancelled his trip to Skyrim initially, but realised that by avoiding this, other innocent people were dying. He decided that he wouldn't let others keep dying instead of him, and made his way to Solitude to meet his fate.
But of course, you and I have a date with destiny.
Even if the Dragonborn doesn't choose to complete this Dark Brotherhood assassination, the Dark Brotherhood becomes destroyed and the Emperor dies. Could this be a prophecy that its fate is sealed? Going back to our suspects, it doesn't seem likely that the Thalmor would murder Titus, the Emperor that's been squirming under their thumb, content with their controlling peace. This leaves us with 2 main suspects, the Elder Council and Hammerfell. The Elder Council could have systematically been killing the heirs to Titus' throne while preparing to assassinate Titus, with them then puppeteering an emperor or consuming the power of the Empire themselves, in order to better arm themselves for the next Great War. This could work well, especially as to how the Amulet of the Elder Council came into the possession of the Dragonborn. But this assassination took a lot of planning and scheming, and the Elder Council was not as powerful as they depict themselves to be, often watering down to being just a bunch of bickering nobles. Could the Elder Council really work together on this shared opinion to kill their Emperor? It's not likely, and I feel that Amaund, while being one of the cogs in the scheme, was a lone representative from the Elder Council. But the theory I do like is the nation of Hammerfell being behind Amaund's actions. They have a strong motive in wanting revenge of Titus Mede II, along with the Empire, as they left them abandoned, throwing them to the wolves that is the Thalmor. The nation could have provided the wealth needed to organise the assassination of the Emperor, even more so if the wealthy Motierres were part of their side. And there's also some subtle hints during the assassination quest, like the Hammerfell exclusive jar and root. But the strongest force behind this theory is somewhat self-referential, which could also become its own downfall. This murder mystery is one of the biggest open questions left in Skyrim, and the next Elder Scrolls games normally expand on their previous storylines. And it's rumoured that the 6th Elder Scrolls game will be based in Hammerfell. So I would like to shakily accuse the nation of Hammerfell for the assassination of the Imperial Emperor Titus Mede II, through the hiring of the Dark Brotherhood. Hopefully the future Elder Scrolls games will be able to supply more evidence into our murder investigations, and expose the true criminal further. Who knows, perhaps there's another hidden force, still yet to be revealed, that's been orchestrating this all. Who do you think is responsible for the death of Titus Mede? Is it one of the suspects that we profiled, or one that we missed in our investigation? Please leave your thoughts in the comments. Until we are given our next case, I'll see you investigators back at the office.